All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Rice Report, our interview series. Today, we are joined by an incredible guest, Kate Monroe. She is the CEO of VetCom, former Marine Corps veteran. She is helping veterans all around the country. She lives in San Diego. We're going to talk about politics, money, and religion, as we always do. And she is from a town I lived in for many years in San Diego. So we're definitely going to talk about that. We're going to start out with California. How are you today, Kate?
I'm so good. I'm excited for whatever this is going to be. Can't wait.
Me too. I don't know. I never know where these things are going. So let's talk about California politics because you ran for Congress. Unfortunately, you lost. I don't think anyone expected you to win because you're a conservative Republican in California. But you made a ton of waves. And sometimes making waves is the best thing you can do because it has made you a name. And now your name is well known out there. You've been supporting veterans for years as a veteran. You're a CEO of a company. You're very successful. California politics might be the most misunderstood thing in the nation. So almost everyone who's never lived in California looks at California and assumes everyone has blue hair and they're voting for transgenderism. And that's simply not the case outside of San Francisco, Sacramento, of course, Los Angeles, and parts of San Diego now. Most of the state is red. You have it's the number one agricultural state in the country, a lot of farmers. Give us an overview of what's happening in California politics right now, just so the rest of the country can understand.
Well, I think here in California, there's a bit of a revival going on, and I want to use the word revival because it's a Christianity sort of term. I feel like there's a spirit kind of awakening, like, there's it bubbling up here in California, and you're seeing all of the outside getting red, pulling, into these places. I mean, unfortunately, living in San Diego, when you run for politics, you're likely to lose. Sadly, the voter roll would show that you have a pretty good shot because it's basically 50-50, but it just never goes that way, due to whatever they're doing behind the scenes. And also a lot of those on the right, they got so bewildered and set aside and so sort of crapped out, if you will, that they just don't go to the polls. So that doesn't help your cause at all. I'm from Northern California. I'm from Redding, from one of those little farm towns.
Oh, super red town, by the way.
A very red town.
I like Redding.
And that's a very different sort of growing up. San Diego's sort of the antithesis, and so is San Francisco and LA from where I grew up. And it's just sad to see ideologically what's going on in California. But I do feel like this revival is going to make its way and sweep and sweep and sweep. And I think we'll do better here in the midterm. And it could lead us to have a very interesting presidential election at the next stop. So
I think the last time California was actually red was Ronald Reagan, right? Like, this is really kind of the last era, and then the infiltration began. So I lived there from 2005 to 2020, so 15 years in California. And the first 7 or 8 years, first 5 or 6, I was in San Diego. But the first 7 or 8 years I was in California, it was kind of the American dream. It was a free place. You could, aside from being taxed out of the wazoo, it was a free place. Like, you could have a lot of fun there. There was great business to be done, good people there. And then something changed. I mean, you could feel it happening when Trump got elected the first time, that this just psychosis began in California. Is that trend breaking? Are you starting to see, because you said there's a revival, are we starting to see like society get back to common sense there, or is it still rampant?
No, I think society is getting back to common sense, and I think I've pinpointed what happened in California and across the country in many of these major cities. So I grew up; I was an '80s kid. I was a little kid in the '80s during the Reagan era. I actually got to give flowers to his daughter. There's the cutest picture of me at 3, handing her this giant thing of flowers, and that was just a totally different time. But there were no cell phones. There wasn't social media. There wasn't 24-hour news. The relay of information wasn't so great. The news was the news. It was, here's what actually happened today. Go make your own opinion. And people used to be able to talk about all the things that we're going to talk about today without blowing a gasket and canceling people. But I think that social media just is so salacious, and it takes a very small issue and turns it on its head. I mean, I do the news 1 to 3 times a day. And sometimes even when I'm on the news, I'm like, I'm literally filling time in this 24-hour block. I actually think that is what is wrong. That is what has led people to be social media warriors. People are very brave on here.
Yeah.
Very brave in person, but very brave online. And I think that sort of salacious behavior, that trolling, just got people completely out of control. I don't know, after talking to so many politicians on both sides and talking to people, I don't think they believe what they're saying. It's that mob mentality. You just get swept up in it. And I don't think it's legitimate, to be quite frank. And I think people are tired of that. You know, you want to talk about curses. We need to break this curse that is hovering over this generation and free people and let them make their own decisions.
Yeah, and this happened in California 50 years ago with the Jesus revival in California. You're starting to see the same. We're both Christians, so and this is an open forum for us to speak here. Are you starting to see a revival in faith there as well?
I definitely am seeing a revival in faith. I go to a big church here in San Diego, Awaken, and they have multiple campuses. Definitely a very biblical, very powerful church. I started going there about 2 years ago when I was running for Congress. I said, not only do I need to plug back in, you know, I've been a Christian since I was 3. I need to plug back in because I need that love and light. You know, it was just so oppressive what I was going through. But then what I found there was like, wow, this church is growing at such a massive pace. And it's because they took a stand during COVID. They didn't close. You know, they stayed open in the face of all this adversity. And I'm seeing here in San Diego, there is like when we put on Night of Christmas, there's like 100,000 people end up going. The amount of people that come to the Lord at all these events is just amazing to me. And I think that there is that, you know, sort of awakening revival spirit for the Lord happening here. And I pray every day that more of that takes place because California needs it. If anywhere needs it, it's here. I have a little boy in school. He's 8. And the kind of stuff that they want to teach our kids is absurd, and parents don't like it on both sides of the aisle. And I think we're going to make our way back.
I do too. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the primary reasons I moved to Texas was the education, and on top of that, it was COVID. And I still remember walking into a candy shop during COVID. I knew all this stuff pretty early on, you know, not to trust what's happening here. And I remember a lady threw a packet of Starburst at my head at a candy store because I wasn't wearing a mask. So
Hey, great.
emboldened. Yeah, I picked it up, I bought it, and I ate it right in front of her, and I walked out. Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, thanks. I was looking for those. This is great. I went there to go get, you know, candy for my kids. I think people really kind of miscategorize. California as a state is pretty well segmented. NorCal, extremely agricultural. Like Redding's actually a really cool town. You have that whole area. You have the Inland Empire. There's a lot of blue collar, a lot of red, but it gets overshadowed by the fragmentation of the big cities. And San Diego, having lived there for a while, is really one of the most beautiful cities in the country. And at the same time, it's probably the only place I've ever been to where you can meet a billionaire and a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps out at the dinner for the same night. Really cool city. I'm hoping that happens here. But I also know you've been going to DC quite a bit. Yeah.
I just got back last night actually from being in DC. So it was a good trip. Different than I thought it was going to turn out, but it was like a little Christmas miracle took place while I was there. So it was really good.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah, I went there. I was invited to go to what I thought was going to be a roundtable discussion with the new Secretary of the VA, Doug Collins. And so that's what I was prepared to go do. And then I got there and it's like, no, you're just going to sit behind him in this hearing. And I said, well, I came all the way from San Diego, and this is not necessarily what I had in mind. But I sat there during this hearing, listened to lawmakers on both sides, the dais. I was thinking I was at Catholic Church. I'm like, the audacity for you to even say that word is so ridiculous and inappropriate and just stupid. So I sat there and watched this whole thing. And then he got sort of miffed at the way that they acted, and he ran out, got mad and stormed out, and all of his staff followed him. So I was like, okay, cool. I guess we're not even going to get a picture. I was so disappointed. So I was sitting at lunch about to get my food, and I called my booker and I said, hey, I didn't even get a picture. This didn't go well. She goes, oh my gosh, they're at the VA. You got to run over there. So I ran all the way over to the VA. I ended up sitting in a 3-hour roundtable with him and his other leaders, where we were sort of problem solving. I gave them all my big solutions, and I got to get on camera with them. He actually made a video for all of our veterans here at VetCom, and it was like, I feel like God was like, hey, it's cool. There's no time here at the hearing. Let me make a way for you to have a better experience, and let me place you where you need to be. And the day before, this lady that just came into my life said, I want to pray that God puts your feet in bigger rooms. And wouldn't you know it, the very next day this happened. So the guy is amazing. Him being a chaplain is so amazing for the veteran community. And I told him as much because I was assaulted in the Marine Corps, and it was a chaplain that helped me navigate that space of how I felt and how I dealt with that. And I've always just thought the world of chaplains. So him being a chaplain is amazing to me.
Well, chaplains are an important part of society. People forget. We just authorized in Texas for chaplains to be in every public school.
I
So that's
love
another big change. 10 commandments will be posted, chaplains in schools. But let's get into VA.
Yeah.
I don't think most people realize. I have a lot of. I wasn't military myself, but I have a lot of military friends, and the VA by itself has been a disaster for 20 years. What are the changes that you're authorizing or offering up to Mr. Collins at the VA? Like where were we and where do you want us to go is probably the better thing for non-military or veterans out there. Most people have no idea how bad the VA is currently. Can you walk us through that?
Well, if you just imagine, especially the benefit side of the VA that's supposed to be compensating veterans for their disabilities, like that's what we do here at VetCom. We help them get that compensation. What we see from our vantage point, having helped 13,000 people last year, we'll help roughly 30,000 this year, is that it's basically a big insurance company that doesn't want to pay. So imagine that every single time you are trying to interact with the Veteran Benefits Administration, it would be like what would happen to you if you got in a car accident and we're trying to navigate the insurance component. It would be awful. It's bureaucratic. It's like they intentionally lay a minefield in front of them. And they know veterans have anxiety and are quick to take their ball and go home. So they'll thwart your success to see if you'll just go, you know what, this isn't for me, grab your ball and walk off. But when they have help like ours, we're going, no, 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 game's not over. We're going to continue on this journey and this fight until we get you all the way there. And that's how we've been so successful, squashing all that anxiety. So I told him, you need to change it ideologically, and the culture of the VA needs to make a shift towards serving veterans, for doing what's right for our nation's heroes and not acting like an insurance company. I said the other thing that why you end up paying so much money for these disabilities, most of which are mental health, is because you transition people. It would be like, Eric, it would be this similar thing to where right now you do what you do for a living. You have a team, a purpose, your housing, your healthcare, all this stuff lined up. But imagine all of it was tied to your job or wherever you're working or for yourself. But tomorrow you can't do that anymore. And so now you got to go find a new place to live and all your food and your healthcare, and you have no team and no purpose, and you can't do what you're doing right now for a job. That's how we transition 250,000 people. So I said, hey, I'm a skill bridge company, meaning active duty can come work for me. We need to give big tax credits to companies that
Great program, by the way. We're looking at hiring 2 SkillBridge folks for
exactly,
engineering. Yeah, great
they are
program.
our best employees. And I gave them those things and some other things on how do we shore up, this veteran homelessness issue. And it really comes down to the heart of the VA not being in the right place. And I'm hoping that we see a shift, a revival, if you will, at the VA toward. It was interesting to see him in this hearing. They're talking about all the people you're supposedly going to cut and all the negative stuff. I didn't hear them mention veterans at all.
Right.
They didn't even ask him, how are you going to serve veterans better? How can we serve veterans better? What do you need from us in order to help the veteran community? He kept bringing the conversation back. Stop scaring my veterans. This is what's going to be best for veterans. And I think if veterans really listen to him and what he says, they would be excited. But when you listen to the media, it's very scary. So, stop listening to the media and listen to the man. That's what I would say.
Yeah, the VA is so fattened at this point in time. It is so overstaffed, but underwhelming, right? So all the guys I talk to who use the VA for medical care, I mean, sometimes they're waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to get into a VA, despite the fact that it's overstaffed. How does that even get to that point? It's all just government pork. Somebody's making a fortune on VA contracts that get approved by Congress, and hopefully Doge found that, and that's probably why they're doing this.
Doge, because they're making all this money. Politics is a big grift. That's why I'm so glad I didn't get in, because I'm not a quiet person. I would have been like taking a spotlight, shining it on every single thing, just like they're doing. But they elevated the amount of staff to the size of the active duty army.
Yeah.
I don't think people really can grasp, because almost nobody is a CEO of a company that has 500,000, employees, and you had more employees, yet you didn't serve another veteran. You didn't augment the service. You didn't adjudicate claims faster or better or more. So who did you hire? Who are all these people? I mean, so far they've only fired 1,000 people, but the number they want to bring up is this 83,000, person number. I think that they probably can get rid of 30,000 people,
Sure.
and the VA will run better, in my opinion. It's a lack of efficiency. If my little bitty company of 150 people can serve, call it 45,000 veterans in a 2-year period with only 150 people, what are you doing with 500,000 people?
Yeah.
How many people are not served? That was his point. How many people are not serving veterans?
Right. And it's a huge admin staff. It's not like it's a whole bunch of doctors and nurses. It's all paper pushers that are earning a decent salary, good salary, full benefits on the government dime to not serve veterans.
Well,
I
their
mean,
job
not serving.
is denied, denied, denied. They spend more money denying claims than they spend if they just awarded people what they're owed.
Here's a great tie to put together. Who are the biggest private donors to the VA? Who are the biggest private donors? This is a very simple. I mean, I don't even know the answer, but I'm going to draw the connections. I'm going to assume Big Pharma is
Yep.
probably one of the biggest donors, because the VA treatment that I hear about, again, not me, but I hear about, is there a big pill factory. You go in there and it's just a prescription model. There's no wellness. There's no holistic. There's no prevention. It's all just, which is the medical system. To be fair, it's not just the VA. It's a diagnose and prescribe and give some pills.
Well,
And
this isn't going to be very popular, and veterans aren't going to want to hear this. But if you're being seen at the VA, you likely are a part of some guinea pig program. They are testing a drug on you that is not good for you. Like, they basically forced people getting VA healthcare to get the COVID shot, multiple shots and boosters. And you wonder why you lost 400,000 veterans in only a 2-year period. I wonder how that they basically killed in a generation of people. Do you wonder why World War II and Vietnam vets the number went down so small in a 2-year period? Well, that is why. You are a guinea pig if you're going there. And of course, that's from Big Pharma. They need a big wide audience to test their stuff on. And since it's free, you get all that cool free healthcare. Well, now you're part of a study that might not be good for you.
yeah, you get what you pay for, especially when it's privately funded, right? And this is a big problem. So you're in the military for 10, 12 years. You have VA benefits coming out. The military doesn't get paid very much. They get out there in the civilian sector. They have to adjust. They find a job. Many of these, let me reference this by saying, I know many very successful veterans. Actually, some of the most successful people I know did a 4-year term, right? Exactly, a CEO of a company. But that's not everyone. The majority of veterans coming out are going into blue collar jobs that have been vanishing. Factory workers are completely eviscerated in this country. We've been offshoring that with NAFTA and everything else for so many years. Then you have this problem of going to the VA prescribing pills, which are causing psychiatric issues, which right now, I just looked this up before our interview, it's 21 or 22.15 veterans per day are committing suicide in this country. These are heroes.
Yeah.
Heroes that are killing themselves. So what is the fix? I mean, I know you're in to try to fix this thing up. And as a business fixer myself, I can look at problems and diagnose them. How difficult is it going to be to like realistically to turn around the VA and make it a system that's actually beneficial for the veterans when they get out?
Well, I think there's two things that we could do with immediacy that would stop the onslaught of this from happening. It would stop the onslaught of the suicide and all the homelessness. You could stop it almost overnight. Two ways. One, you have to work both ends to the middle. So thing number one is you would have every single veteran would have to take mental health care, either group classes or one-on-one, 6 months before they get out. And you have to allow them, if they elect to take a skill bridge, you have to allow them to be approved for skill bridge, because now they're going to have the time to get their claim made properly. They're going to have mental health care on their way out, on exit, so we can start working on their psyche, preparing them for civilian life. And then 3, they're going to have a job. They're going to have enough runway to take off. In a company like ours, you can work from home. You can go back to wherever you're from, work for us, make a very good living, and be part of a team. So if we started that, you would have more continuity of care. Their mental health care would be taken care of upon exit. They would have a job to take off. Then you stop the onslaught of people exiting, 250,000 of them exiting improperly every year. Then you go and there's warehouses all over the country full of FEMA level FOB, forward operating base equipment, which would be shower systems, bathroom systems, laundry systems, cafeteria systems, hooches, huge tents and bunk systems. You could build 5 base camps right now in our country with equipment we already have, and get every single veteran there, get them cleaned up, get them their rating, get their mental health care taken care of, get them transformed so that they can transition. Doing those 2 things would lower the suicide overnight, because you want to talk about 22 people killing themselves. Another 15 veterans die on the street of natural causes and drugs every day. So it's 22 plus 15. So 22 people end up killing themselves, and 15 of them end up just dying on the street and nobody knows, because the number is 35,000 homeless vets, but there's 1.3 million of them at the brink of being homeless right now. While we're talking, 1.3 million of them are sleeping in cars and other things while we're talking. So I said to them, hey, what if we have a skill bridge program for veterans? What if they can take voc rehab or their GI Bill, which they never use those funds to front load them being able to start at a company? So if you're a SkillBridge company, you should be able to take on veterans, and so the government still would pay you to pay them, and you could
Absolutely.
your team and into your system. Those things are major things that would save lives, that would get people off the street, and that would do right by our active duty military people. But the fixing the veteran healthcare system, they need to privatize more than half of that. If they
Yeah.
privatized it, they'd spend less money and they would actually be able to have accountability. See, right now there's no accountability to the funds. It's a pay and pray. But if you're a private doctor, a private facility, private hospital, you'd have to every year go, hey, we're meeting the budget, we're serving X number of people. You'd have to prove up before you get your money. But right now, everything
Like the real world.
yeah, like the real world, like everyone else operates.
The privatization of healthcare for veterans, like how do we get to that point? There's so much pork that goes into the VA system. There's so many hundreds of billions go into the VA system right now. It's hard to keep track of it, and that's part of the intention of overflooding, is that that's what Doge is uncovering. There's really no accountability for money. But we have all this capital going in there, taxpayer capital going in there. And if we privatize that, what does that look like on the back end? Does that cost veterans money now that they have free healthcare? I mean, that's a benefit, but does it make it worse for them if you privatize?
No, I don't think it makes it worse for them. They get better continuity of care when they have community care. The Mission Act actually, made it possible finally, once and for all, for veterans to be able to go out in town. A lot of these people live where there's not good health care, where there's not a VA hospital or a facility. So they were relying on community care to get their care. The trouble is the VA doesn't pay as often as they should. A lot of my friends own clinics and other rehab facilities where they're owed a ton of money. They're owed millions of dollars by the government. They just don't, they let people go there, but then they don't pay their bills. TRICARE does the same thing. If they were actually willing to pay their bills, more facilities would want to take veterans and their families. But right now, in this season, a lot of these doctors are like, I would love to treat veterans, but you're not going to pay me. So why would I do it? That's
Millions of dollars, you're saying? Millions.
dollars. Yeah. And the other issue that you have is these VA facilities are not really equipped to deal with the amount of flow that they have. They're down thousands and thousands of doctors and nurses. They don't even have enough doctor nurse staff to see all the patients that they have. They really need, like, it'll end up being more like Kaiser. Sometimes you work and you choose like a Kaiser program like we have here, which is kind of like VA healthcare for the private community. It's Medicare, Medicaid. There's no reason why we can't treat it the same. If the government was really willing to pay these VA claims, more providers would take them. That's one of the biggest changes they have to make. They have to pay their bills. If you don't pay your bills, providers are not going to want to work with you or for you.
That's kind of like a fundamental rule of business. If you're handling money, you're a business, and if you're not paying bills, you're not really a business. You're a scam.
Correct.
And that's where we are.
Yes.
And then the surgery stories. I mean, I can go into those for hours with guys I know of just horrific surgeries, horrible sutures, improper people operating on the wrong organ. I've heard of that before. Like two kidneys. You have two kidneys. So they operated on the wrong kidney. These are horror stories.
Yeah. When I was in the Marine Corps, I actually smashed my nose and eye socket. I used to have a big laceration like this all the way over my face. I'm actually missing part of my skull that they made my nose with. The doctors at the VA said, this is way out of our league to be able to fix this. I was in a little tiny base in Arizona, so I got to go home. A plastic surgeon ended up fixing. It's actually been 7 surgeries I've had on my face to look like a normal person.
Well, you look amazing. So the doctor did a great job, whoever that is. You look incredible.
Thank you. But it was a long road. I mean, it was 6 or 7 years it took to fix my face. I went through a very ugly period, but thank God they were honest that they couldn't do it. If they had done it, I would probably look like Frankenstein. And I mean, I've had friends have insane things happen to them at the VA, whether it's being prescribed completely the wrong medications or getting surgeries that they don't need, or getting surgeries, like you said, on the wrong things. We're making claims for veterans where the cascade effect of the wrong surgery ended up, it's like, okay, you did the wrong part of the back. Well, the other part of the back is still wrong. Now they have radiculopathy and neuropathy, and now their gait changed. Now their knee and their hip and their ankle are messed up. They cause themselves a ton of waste you
How
know,
are they selecting these doctors and surgeons? Like how, the best surgeons in the world are going to go into private practice because they can make the most money. Are we getting the worst of the worst at the VA, or like what? I don't want to make an accusation of something I don't know, but what is the quality of healthcare provider that are working at the VA? And again, guys, if you're watching this, this is for the people who literally put their life on the line to defend freedom around the world. I want them to get the best healthcare. They won't get it because it's government funded, so the best practitioners are always going to go private. But the ones right below them who would, or the ones who are philanthropic who want to donate their skills, what is the skill level of your average doctor or nurse, if you could take a guess at it?
well, it sort of depends on the region in the country, right? Like here in San Diego, there's some pretty skilled people because people want to live here. So they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I might take a lesser, job or a lesser salary, but I get to live in San Diego." Okay, fine. But
Good
if you're
trade-off.
talking all these rural places and you're a doctor and you could live anywhere, you're not going to go and be the best person. Isn't going to go there. They're going to be the person like that's all you could get was that person. I also think that a lot of them are military doctors, and military doctors have a tendency to be like, here's some Robitussin and some Motrin and just walk it off because they
Rub
were
some dirt on it.
duty. They were active duty and they don't really change that mentality when they transfer over to start serving veterans. They are actually the meanest doctors, I think. And it's something that I don't think they even do with intention. But
Right.
if you've been a medic or a doctor attached to, like, say you were in the Navy and you were providing medical services to Marines, you didn't treat them that nice when you were active duty because you didn't have to. And then you kind of, that's all you know. That's how you were trained. That's how you treat your patients now when you're, part of the private sector, when you work for the, civilian life. And that's a big change that we need to make. The heart for the veteran is not there as much at every VA. They get treated kind of like you're a test patient and, congratulations to you for your free healthcare. We'll sort of treat you however we want. And that's how we treat people. And it's just a shame.
Yeah, it
We
is.
wanting to kill themselves. More people kill themselves in the parking lot at a VA clinic or hospital than anywhere else. Highest per capita place that people in their own life is the frustration that they feel after they go to an appointment. They just hit a wall. They get to the end of their rope. They just think, I'm never going to get out of this pain. No one is listening to me. I'm fighting this battle by myself. I'm just going to pull the ripcord because nobody cares. And they'll sit on hold forever on the suicide hotline. And thank God, we have all of our veterans trained that if you call the VA hotline and they don't pick up within 2 minutes, immediately call our customer service because somebody will pick up the phone and they will talk to you. We filled 100 suicide calls a month.
Wow.
100 of them. That's just the ones that decided to reach out. Imagine the rest of, and that we have a small population of veterans that we serve, 13,000 of them. If 100 of them are calling us every
Wow.
single month, that's a problem that we need to address. And
That's
they're
a
just
big
feeling
problem.
desperate. They lack purpose and they're feeling desperate. A lot of times they'll call me and they'll say, hey, Kate, I got somebody on the line with me and they're just feeling very desperate and out of control and just like their life is so oppressed. I'm like, click back over and ask them if it's because they're broke.
Right.
And they'll go, yeah, they can't even afford cheese. And I'm like, ask them for their Venmo handle and I'll just send them $200 to go get food or something, which will completely change their mind. Now they can go eat a meal. Somebody listened to them. Somebody actually sowed some, finances into their life, and then we can get them traction and get them going again. But
Everyone needs a helping hand.
yeah, we don't
Everyone
miss
should be reaching out to that.
veterans need to hear, how can I help? Not thank you for your service.
I love that.
They
I
need your
love
help.
that. Yeah. Well, some don't. Again, I just met a guy a couple weeks ago that owns a $2.5 billion company, served 12 years in the Marine Corps, probably the most buttoned up human being I've ever met. Very well antiquated into the world. And he does the same thing. He
Yeah.
does the same thing. He says that every month he sets aside X amount of dollars and he gives it directly to the families.
Yep.
So part
We
of
do.
our problem with supporting veterans is the nonprofit middleman.
I'm like, don't even get me started.
Please, no, the nonprofits are a complete scam in this country, guys. They're a complete
Pay
tax
for it.
haven scam.
Oh, it's absolutely horrible. We're actually going to launch our own charity here coming up because that's what we were seeing. We were seeing like, you give out money and you're like, well, what's the ROI on this dollar? What is it doing for the actual veteran? Because like we ended up hiring a guy from our church, the most beautiful, he's 88 years old. He was driving DoorDash and they were sleeping with a tarp above their bed in their trailer because water was coming in on them when they were sleeping. And I was like, oh, what? I'm like, did you tell the church this? No. I said, okay, fine. I called the church. We did a GoFundMe. We paid half from our company. But I realized while we fixed his roof, he's still driving DoorDash at 88. So we hired him to be our chaplain. So our company now has a chaplain. We donate $1,000 to his
That's amazing.
charity. he can be our chaplain, but now he doesn't have to drive DoorDash, and now he's safe and he can be with his wife and feel more whole. But we were just thinking, how can we really help the veteran community, and how can we help businesses actually help veterans? Because people want the goodwill and the story of, oh, we're good people, look at us helping veterans, but you're not helping veterans.
No.
If you think you're helping homeless veterans by donating to a charity, you're not. It's not going to happen. If you think you're stopping veteran suicide by going to a golf tournament, you are not, because you're not giving money to the people who are going to do the work that it takes to get them off the street, or going to do the work to put money in their pocket. So we're going to help corporate America. If you give us a certain amount of money, we're going to make you a DoD skill bridge provider. So you're going to get all your money back, because you're going to get free labor, and you're going to actually get to do goodwill. And every dollar used, every $1,000 that you give us, we're going to take a veteran, and you're going to pay for them to get rated. Now they have traction. Now they have money coming in. That's our dedication. And we don't want to take any of the money. We want to help VetCom help more people, because 35% of people can't afford our services, and they're the ones that need it. So we're trying to provide a pathway for these 35% of our customer base to be able to actually get rated, so they're not on the street, so they can get out of a shelter, so that, we can actually prevent them from committing suicide and becoming homeless. That's what people should really be thinking. But the amount of grifting that goes on, San Diego, when I exposed I went out one day and I realized there was 2,000 people in a 4-block radius, in downtown San Diego, and they called it the bottoms. And these people were telling me that every day at 5 a.m., there's a sweep that comes around, and everyone that's dead, that OD'd overnight, they expect the homeless people to drag them out to the center of the street, and they just pick them up. And then here in San Diego, they literally get burned and thrown in the trash. And I only know this because I was—
the bodies?
Well, they cremate them and then they just chuck it in the trash. There's
oh my gosh,
they don't contact people, nothing. And the veterans, it was happening to veterans too. The veterans were not even getting like any kind of burial until this mortuary decided to start paying for the plaque themselves, because the city was like, man, chuck them in the trash. And so we realized there was 2,000 people in this 4-block radius. They're dragging their own bodies out into the street. People are getting assaulted every day. There's drug dealers every 4 feet. I mean, I accidentally bought a soda off a drug dealer here in San Diego. I was so thirsty. They were pushing a thing. This little girl goes, don't get a soda from him. The guy's a drug dealer. He's going to go sell my mom drugs right now. Sure enough, on film, the guy takes his little cart over, does a drug deal, and just walks right on.
So he's selling all types of Coke, right? That's what he was doing. I got both Cokes for you, whatever Coke you need.
I would like the diet sort. I mean, just the absurdity, that goes on. And so I started to go, how much money is given to charities in San Diego to help people? And I found really only the rescue mission, Donnie D, charge of the rescue mission. That guy is a king of the human, an absolutely amazing person. They are doing the work. And they don't get any money from the city because they're, Christian based. So they don't get any money. Everyone else, you couldn't get these people on the phone if you tried to. They will never call you back. They don't help the people that are homeless, and they get millions and millions of dollars. And if they don't do anything this year, next year they get more money. I mean, what kind of idiotic thing are we pulling here in California?
Well, it's not just California. That's a beacon of it. But when you look at the grift and nonprofit, charities that are out there right now, you give an example of a golf tournament. I used to, play in a golf tournament every year. I still do for my church, and I know the money goes to the church. But when you're playing for a tournament, it's organized by a private company, normally a marketing agency.
They make almost all the—
They make 30. They're authorized legally to take 30%. So 30% of your donation made there goes directly to a for-profit company that just marketed you to get there. And then after that, usually about 8, and this is statistically accurate, about 84% of all charity donations go to administrative fees. So you put those together, so you have 30% off the top, and then 84% of the remaining 70%, it actually goes to people working at the charity. So you're left with like 9 to 10% of all donations actually going to the thing you donated to. Well, this is a really big problem.
The charity doesn't want to fix the problem, because if they do, then all those jobs go away.
That's right.
So God forbid you actually do something with the funds, because then the problem might get smaller. You would need less money, and there would be, all these people that sit in air-conditioned buildings while the homeless are out in 95-degree weather here in San Diego dying. But God forbid, because if you do this housing first model, you better keep people homeless, or you're not going to have bodies to put through this program. When I was up in the Tenderloin with Tom Wolf, who has an amazing story, the guy was a totally normal guy, had a surgery, ended up on opioids, and ended up on the street his family, he'd lost his family, ended up in jail, thank God, and got himself, he became a Christian and got himself clean. And now he takes people like me out to show, what's going on in the Tenderloin. He goes, you see this building? Yeah. See that building? That's transitionary housing in the middle of this neighborhood where regular families are. There's all these people up there. He goes, not one of them's not doing drugs. He goes, 60% of the people that go in that building are going to die. And they'll take them out a week later after they clean it up. They're going to put somebody else in that building. They will never stop this because the people that make money, $5,000 a head to put somebody in that room, they don't want that to stop. If you put somebody in that room, you get paid. If you run out of people to put in the rooms, you don't get paid. And then the craziest part is after they house people in those communities, they sell it really to themselves, like to their buddy. Yeah. They get it. They got it for nothing. So the guy got to build it in the first place. They make money while people are in there. And then they turn it into apartments or condos and sell them. I don't know what's going on with my light.
That's crazy. I've never had a light go out. This is what happens when you speak the truth. It just blanks. Like, put 36. Literally. Well, where you're going with this is talking about you're talking about the homeless industrial complex. And most people don't know what this is. California is the worst. New York is bad. Chicago is bad. California is by far the worst. I'll give you an example of the homeless industrial complex in Venice Beach, California. Right after COVID, during COVID, homelessness exploded. If you went to Venice Beach in like the 90s, it was one of the coolest places in the world. If you went there in 2020, you were lucky to avoid human feces on the street or a needle in your foot. It was just overwhelmed. It's still overwhelmed with homeless people. But in 2021, I think, they authorized $1.9 billion in federal funding. So the federal government gave gave Venice Beach $1.9 billion to build homeless housing. Billion. By the way, just a quick reminder, a billion is 1,000 million, right? So we just use the word billion quite a bit, or trillion. A trillion is 1,000 billion.
I said this yesterday to someone. I go, we throw around 248 billion like it's $5. I don't think the average person can even really quantify how much $1 billion is. It's a ludicrous amount of money. I mean, it's
insane. So they get 1.9 billion from COVID. I think that's from COVID funding, which was all a scam. And the 1.9 billion, and mind you, there's about 1,500 at any given time on Venice Beach. You can see about 1,500 homeless people. I have friends who live there. Their homes are broken into twice a year. It's awful. And by the way, it cost $1 million for a 900 square foot house. So it's a crazy place. 1.9 billion. They ended up, the final result after 1.9 billion was one building with 20 beds. Okay, you can build one building, a makeshift shelter with beds for homeless people for about 40 grand. So when somebody actually decided they wanted to audit this, every city councilman in Venice Beach denied the claim. They would not allow an auditing. And at the end, they started tracing some of the bills privately and found out that over $1 billion went to architects and consultants, multiple.
All their buddies.
All their crony buddies, all their crony. California is the crony capital of the world. Having lived there, if you don't know people, you're not going to make it. Like, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you have the best product in the world. If you're California based, you need to be in the right circles. Again, one of the reasons I left. I didn't fit into those circles anymore.
That's the thing.
Yeah. So the homeless complex is Sacramento's horrible. There's a ton of homeless people in Sacramento. San Diego, the homelessness has now I will preface it, but if you're going to be homeless, San Diego is probably the greatest place in the world to be homeless. It's perfect weather, nice people, but the homeless numbers there have quadrupled since 2020, and 64% last study were illegals. So illegal homeless people are running around. Walk us through what's actually happening on the street there.
It's not just the illegal homeless people. During COVID, we opened up San Diego to people from all over the country. When you go around, I've talked about 1,000 homeless people. Only about 10% are from here. They are not San Diegans. They got bussed here. In fact, I had the craziest story given to me. You remember when Newsom cleaned up San Francisco for China to come?
Yes.
They put people on buses, told them they were bringing them to San Diego. When they hit San Diego, they took the 8 east and dropped them off in the dead of night in the middle of the desert on the side of the road and turned around and drove off. That is how we clean up our homelessness in our cities here. I have been in San Diego where they have told the homeless people, hey, we're going to move you guys to a new encampment. We'll even move your stuff. I stood there and these homeless people are excited, thinking they're going somewhere nice and clean. They pack up their stuff. They put it in the middle of the street. and the trucks come by, take all their stuff, throw it in the trash, and drive off. And then they round them up and just move them. This is how homeless people get treated here in San Diego. It is like a third world country. The most violent people, I think, in California that are homeless are in San Diego.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree from
They're
what I
all
hear.
on drugs.
Hmm.
Dude, the drug issue gets more crazy as you go north because I've walked in San Diego, Oceanside, LA, and Skid Row, the Tenderloin. I've walked in Portland. And I will tell you, by the time you get to Portland with all that Chinese trank that they're taking, their skin is falling off.
Yeah.
They're like zombies. They're doing sex acts outside. They're like, I've had a knife pulled on me in San Diego. I've had a giant drug dealer stand over me with his fist right in my face in San Diego. I have to take an armed guard out. But
Wow.
these people, imagine being homeless where it's so beautiful in San Diego, but you are sleeping in your own feces. There's no bathrooms and showers out there. There's drug needles everywhere. When I'm talking to people, I have to wear steel shoes because I'm likely going to be standing on drug needles while I'm talking to people. It's absurd what goes on here in the most beautiful city, but when you rely on tourism, you're not going to advertise that your water is full of other people's, feces.
Yeah.
You're not going to advertise your homeless problem. And so we just sort of have an invisibility cloak here in San Diego.
That
So
is so scary. And they
it's
just
been,
move them off, like they move them out of the gas lamp. So when everybody goes to San Diego, they go to the gas lamp, they go to dinner, they go to drinks, everything looks beautiful. All you got to do, if you're in San Diego, walk 6 blocks,
yeah.
and you will be in a completely different world. Same with LA. I mean, you can go 1 block in LA and it's a totally different world.
My body man said it was worse than Djibouti. He was like nearly in tears the first time we went out. He goes, I cannot even believe that we are in San Diego. This is the worst thing that I've ever seen. I can't believe people are living like this. And the ballpark is right there. In fact, I used to work down by Horton Plaza in San Diego when it was defunct. Now they've, done some work to it. But I stepped over multiple dead bodies, not even knowing it. But I would take my staff down, and when they were being ungrateful, I would have us all go get some coffee and hand a cup of coffee to, a homeless person. And one day we were down there, and I see the police come, and there's all these vans lined up, and I'm like, wow, I'm gonna watch, because this is before I was even doing this. I was like, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing? I have to know. And they round up all of them and they put them in the vans, and then they get power washers out and they wash that whole area because there's a food fair on
Oh my
Thursday.
gosh.
So I asked the police, I go, where are you taking all these people? He goes, oh, we just take them to this warehouse and we feed them and lock them in. And then when the thing's over, we just bring them back. Okay. So literally in the morning, there's drugs all over the ground, every kind of disease you could imagine, because there's feces and stuff everywhere. You're just going to power wash it off. And then the general public's going to come and hang out. And then you're going to bring these people back. It's like something you would see in a movie where you would be appalled. You'd be like, certainly that's not a thing. Yes, it is a thing. And it is
Rampant. Normal. It's normalized.
it's normal. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
So how do we get through this? I mean, so it's not just, by the way, we're not just picking on California. It's no different in New York City. It's no different in Chicago. San Diego has done the same thing. I remember when I moved to San Diego years in like 2005, I was going to get into housing. So I had a partner that said, hey, get out here and meet with this guy. And then they stopped converting buildings into apartment complexes and just shut down a gigantic industry. And everything got shut down over the course of 10 years. They just stopped this free trade, open source market. And they've turned it into a government parade of spending fiasco. That is California, New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta. Dallas, where I live, is a complete mess. There are areas of Dallas that are exactly like you're talking about in California and San Diego. Austin is, I mean, if you're in the right part of Austin, Texas, it's like one of the greatest cities in the world. You go to the other side of town and it's like what you're describing. It's like San Francisco, LA, San Diego. It's no different. This liberal mindset, which is a Marxist mindset, like if you compare liberal ideals and you've actually done any research on Marxism at all, you will find out that these people are brainwashed. So for a long time, I was angry at them. And now I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for being angry at them because we were told to love and help our neighbor. So what do we do now in today's society? We contribute to a charity and hope they help our neighbor. Help your neighbor directly. You want to donate money. Don't worry about your tax write-off. Find a family who needs money and donate money. And in our society today, we have this entire handoff mentality. It's always somebody else's problem. America was built, our Constitution was designed for us to help each other. It wasn't really designed for the government to be big daddy and come in and solve all these problems. California is so dependent. It's completely the devil. Yeah, it's completely the opposite of its construction.
Yeah, I
But
mean, the devil, really. I mean, if you think about what's been going on in the last few decades, people have gotten away from taking care of their parents. The family unit has been pulled apart. The lie that you are the most important thing and the sun and moon and stars revolve around you, and all your opinions have to be validated and all your feelings. And it's this very selfish looking in the mirror, not looking out the window kind of culture. We're not looking out like, hey, how can I help? How can I be of service? It's like me, 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 me. How can I help me? How can I feel validated? How can I feel good? How can I make money? How can I retire? It's not like, hey, how can I do right by my family, by my friends? How can I leave a legacy? Not a lot of people thinking about leaving a legacy. They're so worried about what they're doing right now. And that really is the problem. People have never been lonelier in a time and place where you can apparently talk to people whenever you want. People have never been lonelier. People have never been more desperate. These young kids, I have a ton of young people that work for me. I love to sow into the next generation. A lot of them told me, if I didn't work for you, I might just go kill myself. I would have no hope. I would think that no adult cares about me. I would not have a purpose or a team. I would not understand where I am supposed to be going every single day. Like, we took a poll, about 100 young people between the ages of 20 and 25. 80% of them said, if there was a pod that I could go get in and go to sleep and never wake up, I would do it. That is such a scary place for our society to be, because this younger generation, they think everything is right here. Nothing is right here.
nothing. There's zero to offer you on that phone.
Connection is what is right here. You want to be connected to people, you want to solve people's problems, shut the TV off, put your phone down, like go out and talk. Like, when I sit with my little son, I want to make sure I'm being present with him, or he's going to think he doesn't even have a mom.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's what people are dealing with.
Yeah,
It's a
100%.
step away from God. We need to put God back in as many things as we possibly can. Bring
And
him
the,
up as often as you can.
and the strange thing is, you can go to pretty much any of the AI systems and say, if you were the devil, how would
How
you conquer the next generation? The first thing it'll tell you is, I'd put a phone in every one of their hands and I would feed them misinformation and tell, right? I mean, it's a voluntary brainwashing system. We're in it. I mean, we're being hypocrites right now because someone's going to watch this on their phone right now, right? So I want to acknowledge our hypocrisy in that moment. But I think you're right. I think that and I just had a conversation with Tom Del Picaro yesterday, and he and I talked about this, and I said, what's the main thing to bring people back into a civilized society? And he said the same thing. We got to get closer to God. Our community has to have something to believe in. And the young people in this country is where the change will occur. So a lot of adults in the patriot movement, we're always talking about, everyone's talking about the government needs to do this. I'm always the one going, no, it's society. The government's not supposed to have this much power. It's the largest employer in the history of the world and the largest government system ever known to man. So we need that smaller. We need to learn how to take care of ourselves and our communities. We need to have faith to understand that even if you don't believe in God, read the Bible. Read the words of Jesus. I have a friend of mine who's an atheist, and he said, the words of Jesus are how you should live. I don't believe in him, but I think you should follow his teaching. And that's a great start, right? That's a great start to get to. So we're kind of doing that in Texas, although we're doing some, everything is good and bad. Like you said, politics is a grift. That's all it is. It's a power play for grift. So for every good bill you get, read the whole bill. Like you read the title, like, this is great. Inflation Reduction Act. They're going to reduce it. It stimulated inflation. It was a $1.7 trillion print. So all these things that happen in our states, I think that's the main thing I'm trying to get to, Kate, because you're one of these warriors that's out there on the street every day. How can a normal person, how can just, a normal person working a job, like, be a productive part of the change in this country? That's one thing no one can really answer. And everyone has an opinion on. And I will preface by saying this: in California, the selfishness is predicated upon the actual desperation. So if you're making $50,000-$60,000 a year in California, that's like making $25,000 a year in another state. It's barely enough money to get by. And when you're paying all those taxes, you have to work. You have to be doing something. So that has to change. There's a money component to freedom that we don't even know about because we've all been a debt slave since birth. But societally, like, I know you're doing a lot in the area. So can you give our listeners maybe just some advice on steps they can take, like a daily routine, to help change their community? I've never asked anyone this question, so I'm putting you directly on the spot, Kate.
I like this question, and I give it a lot of thought, and I do have an answer. So when I ran for Congress, I realized how you could be a change maker, just yourself with very little money and very little time. The number one topic was the open border. And people said, so you're running for Congress. That's great. Do you want to point out the fact that the border is open? Yeah, duh. Of course. I have eyes. I can see that the border is open. But what are you going to do about it? And I went, what am I? So I really thought, like, no, not what am I going to do about it when I get there? If I get there, what am I going to do about it right now? If I want people to believe that I'm a doer, what am I going to do about it? And I go, when am I? What can a person do? So I got on Amazon and bought a couple boxes of razor wire. It didn't cost much at all. And I went down to the border and took razor wire and shored up 3 huge holes in our border wall. And then that was like striking a match in a dead forest. It showed people we don't have to go quietly into the night. We need to stand up and fight. And that didn't cost me more than my time, really, and $100 in razor wire, but it sparked news from around the world. People started to go, wow, you can just get razor wire and like go to the border. And it sparked this thing in people that didn't take a ton of my time and effort. Then the border vets happened. All these veterans said, well, I want to go out with you. And we kept going out more and more and more and exposing this problem. The homelessness, going out, I've been able to successfully get 12 people off the street by just going out and saying, hey, how can I help? If I could provide you a path off the street today, would you take me up on it? And I always take the providers out with me, whoever the shelter, people are. And a lot of people go, yes, I want to be off the street right now. Thank God I met you. And boom, we get them going. I always think that people go, I'm going to put this on God. So I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to pray for you. And you should pray for people.
Absolutely. Power of prayer is extremely powerful, by the way.
Feel God gives you is you are standing right next to this person that you're praying for, and you have the resources to help them. You are an extension of me. What are you doing? You want me to solve the problem? I'm literally going to, like a boomerang, spin that back to you and go, it's you. I put you there. You're welcome. I put you in front of this person that needs you. So I always pray for people, but I go, how can I help? What do you need from me right now? And if I have the means to do it, I will do it right now. If you need $1,000 from me right now, and that's going to radically change your situation, I'm going to find a way to get it to you. You need a ride somewhere. You just need a hug. The amount of times just hugging a homeless person, it will overwhelm them. I've reached out and touched people that haven't been touched in 10 years. Their whole body will start to shake, like vibrate. They can't even believe that someone is touching them in the dirty place that they are, like that, like the leper in the Bible. People couldn't believe that Jesus would take the time to actually go and interact with him and try to help save him. Those are the things you can do that cost you very little money. Put your hand on someone, go do something that is in your power to do. 5 people listening could rally together and get a homeless person off the street. It's not as hard as you think. Just design for yourself ways to pattern interrupt someone else's end. And that's what we do at VetCom. Right? I'm trying to change. I'm trying to break curses of poverty. I'm trying to help you with your generational wealth. I'm trying to get if you meet us and you're at a split lane in the track, we should have such a productive conversation. I can help your end destination be different. I should be able to change your whole family's life if I take the time to talk to you. That's what people need to do. Ask people, how can I help?
God will ask you, what have you done for the lowliest among you? God will ask you that question.
And I'll be able to talk.
Yeah, well, and we'll continue to. And I think it's an uplifting message. Being a city guy most of my life, younger days, you walk right by people, and now I try to talk to everybody. I talk to everybody at the grocery store or whoever, anybody I can talk to. But I think this is a message of hope for people. Like, you can make a change. You want something done, go do it. I think people are so scared of penalties or social repercussions. Of, wow, that person's crazy. They're putting razor wire on the fence. Well, isn't that what you're voting for? Like, isn't that what you want? We need to stop asking permission to be free. I think that's one of the big things. And we'll never be free with so many lowly among us. We'll never be free. That's not a free society when you have third world interactions and people being used as tax cattle, literally tax cattle. Taxpayer money goes in, you get 5,000 a head, they die. You replace them over and over again. Just a bunch of dead bodies being produced in the homeless industrial complex. It's such a big problem. So filthy. Everything's so dirty. It's so gross.
It's so grimy. Every time I feel dirtier when I leave Washington than when I go visit a homeless encampment.
Yeah.
I feel it's more insidious. It's more ugly. It's so, when you walk the halls, and on Capitol Hill, you can't help but just feel the evil hovering like over you when you're walking. I would 10 times out of 10 rather go meet with the homeless and go find homeless veterans and save their lives than go meet with any politician, even the ones I'd like. I'd still rather go and spend my time to help people and make a difference.
I completely agree. There's a curse over DC that's pretty obvious. Like it's very dark. But we have a ray of light in the office now.
So we
That's the
did.
best part of it all. I get accused of all kinds of things. I'm critical of decisions that Trump makes. He's a president. I'm a citizen. I have the right to be critical. Critical thinking, the lack of critical thinking and questioning those in authority is how we got here. The best thing about Trump is when people speak up about something they don't like that he's doing, he changes direction. That's what a populist does. But if you don't say anything, and he's one man, kind of honestly, America runs the world. So he's one guy running the world. He's going to make some mistakes. It's been 107 days. I don't think you can ask for more in 107 days of any human being.
Yeah.
But what's happening in DC on the veterans front? I think it's so important for us, because if we can't take care of those who took care of us, then we are no better than any communist nation that's ever existed. So what is happening? Donald Trump is, today he's announced a great trade deal with Britain, which is a huge trade deal, complete reversal of tariff revenue. That's, most people won't understand. That's a huge thing. The stuff he's done, like the gender in sports and stuff, like these were low hanging fruit to take care of the common sense issues. I don't think the VA or homelessness is a common sense issue for most people, because you've uncovered just how bad it is. But what are some of the initiatives that the Trump administration is taking right now for homelessness and the VA?
Oh, I don't know exactly what their plan is on homelessness. I will be speaking with them again. Hopefully today I'll have scheduled my next meeting with them to go through these 7 solutions. But I will say that the heart toward the veteran has changed with this administration. You could tell just by evidence by who they picked. Mm-hmm. Just by who they picked, you can tell the directionality of where they're trying to go. And I would tell people, let Doge do their job at the VA. If you are tired of not being seen and being underpaid and being underserved, that is happening because all the money that's meant to serve you, all those resources are being rerouted to a bunch of stuff that doesn't serve you at all. So let them cook, let them do their job a little longer. They've been in office for 5 minutes. You think you're going to undo 50 years of this nonsense in more than 100 days? The amount of waves they're already making is amazing. I do think that if I meet with them, I can convince them that this base camp idea is a good idea, because what they're looking for is a higher ROI on the taxpayer's dollar, more effectiveness, and something they can hang their hat on, their legacy. If you are the president that ended veteran homelessness, you have won.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about a legacy, you get to be the person forever that saved a generations of people from dying on the street. In as lowly a life as you could leave. You basically started in the service and you end in a dumpster. If we can stop that from happening, we have really done something. And that will be a big focal point for me, along with stopping assaults in the military. But I'm making claims for people. 50% of the people I make claims for, men and women, were assaulted.
Wow.
That's too high a number. I myself was, and that's why I have a heart for it. I believe this administration will listen to those who actually want to help and can actually save them money with the help, because that's what they're looking for. A higher ROI. I can show them how to do it.
I love that. So we'll have your support. This is how it really works, guys. So I know we have factions of people that are just cheerleaders, right? We just cheerlead. This is our guy. It's on the left and the right. So it's both. It's not exclusive to liberals. There are conservatives who just cheerlead things that they actually in private don't agree with. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's, cheerleaders, I guess, are a necessary component to entertainment at a game, but they're not necessarily a function of winning. A function of winning in a society is when decisions or proposals are made at the government level with our tax money, we all should be speaking out and supporting the things that we believe, because we are actually the ones who run the country if it's done right, speaking up for them. So I would highly advise everybody out there to support Kate in these causes, because number one, if we can't take care of those who protected us, we are no better than a Bolshevik revolution in this country. We are no better. America is supposed to be the beacon of light, the place that lifts people up. And if we can't protect those who are willing to lay down their lives for yours, we're lost. We're complete, and we've been lost for a very long time. So this administration and the VA piece is so important, guys. Support causes like this. I know it probably doesn't mean anything to you. You may not know a vet. You may not have served. You may not have done any of those things. But when you hear about causes like this, follow Kate. Follow her on social media, follow her on videos, support what she's doing. Other people like her. Not just saying follow Kate blindly, by the way. Sorry, Kate. Follow Kate's purpose. Follow what she's doing. There's only one person you should follow. That's Jesus. Don't follow people. Follow their missions. And the mission that you're taking right now, we just couldn't thank you enough for what you're doing. This is such a good ray of light in a very dark nation right now. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm happy to serve. You know, a life of service leaves quite the legacy. You know, I want my little son to be proud of me. You know, when he lays me in the dirt, I want him to say, "Wow, what a mom I had," because you know he thinks that I'm a hero, and you know that's really what kind of powers my engine. Like, how can I show him what a good person is? How can I show him the love and light of the Lord? And if he gets to be a witness to that, he's going to get to impart that onto his kids, and on, you know, on and on and on. So.
It's one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite movies, The Crow, where he grabs the lady's arm and squeezes the drugs out of her system and says, "Mother is the word for God on the lips and hearts of all young children." And I think we oftentimes forget that. So it's very good. So a few things I'm going to take away from this interview. Number one, we need faith in our life. Like, I'm not going to sit here and I will preach Jesus anytime you want me to. That's you should be studying for yourself with anything else. Just start praying. Just like, I don't care if you believe or not. If you're in a tough spot, drop on your knees and pray. Your life will change. Prayer is powerful. Number two, the family unit is so important. Show your kids the representation of what it means to be a leader. When I was very young, a mentor told me, I said, "What's the secret of life?" Right? I was probably like 18 or 19. And he said, "To live your life like you want your eulogy read."
Yes.
Really powerful thing. And you forget it. You can, by the way, if you're young watching this, you completely forget that for about 15 years of your life. And then you get serious about life and you start thinking, wow, what are the things I can do? And that comes by impacting other people, not by your own success. It comes by being a good human being. And then the third thing I take away from this, our veteran problem is veteran and homeless problem and homeless veteran problem are much larger than we're told in the media itself.
Yes.
I'm going to ask this final question. So we know our media is corrupt. That's why podcasts are taking off. That's why people want to hear normal people like us having normal conversations about things that we understand and things that we're trying to learn. How I mean, the media situation, obviously Smith-Mundt Act, you have all these other things that allow them to lie. It's legal for the media to lie. But how cruel is it from the trenches of dealing with 13,000 veterans daily who are, I mean, these aren't veterans coming to you who have great lives. Like, these are people in tough spots.
Yeah.
How cruel is it for the media to never cover this topic or to never hear it spoken about at school board meetings or anything else? How cruel is that? Like, how bad is this issue? Like, boil it down for us.
I mean, this issue, not just with veteran homelessness, veteran suicide, or just the ill treatment of our nation's heroes, it devalues the sacrifice wholly, right? It devalues the sacrifice, and it makes people think that freedom is free. Freedom is not free. Just like in the Bible, you know, you love someone so much you'd lay your life down for them. That's what every person who goes to serve, whether or not they go to war, is totally separate from the fact that they were willing to go to war for you. And people will say, well, you know, they were just escaping a bad childhood, or they were just doing this. Yeah, maybe they were. They still went and did it anyway for you. And the thanklessness and the like, I've actually, I think, brought Veterans Affairs to the grand stage, probably more than almost any other person has done. But it wouldn't have happened if I didn't get some crazy video while being out, or, you know what I mean? I had to do something so magnanimous and insane that it couldn't be ignored. Otherwise, trust that they would ignore it. I had to be so loud where it was just like, oh my gosh, if we don't cover this, she's going to roast us, you know? So I guess we gotta, and then it finally got traction. But otherwise, yeah, it would have been an invisibility cloak, because it's so ugly. You know, when I go live on TikTok or Instagram, I can't even say suicide.
Yeah.
I just say unalived. They're not unalived. They committed suicide because we are unwilling to talk about it. We don't have the appetite to deal with hard things like homeless, drugs, and lawlessness. Until we as a society have an appetite to correct it and get people help, it will continue. And the grift will continue. And all these industrial complexes will continue. Raise up the volume of your voice and stand all the way up. That's what I would tell people to do. Stand all the way up. You're a giant. You are amazing. If you're a warrior and you have on the full armor of God, why are you not going to war?
That's right. Daily.
War. It's a battle.
Daily. Yeah, there's a great movie called Nefarious, which is actually about a demon-possessed serial killer. I love this movie. I actually got to briefly meet the creators. I asked them how they got there and just the research going into it. Watch that movie and understand that's what evil is.
Yeah.
Like, we are at a point right now where evil is everywhere. We don't recognize it. We've been brought so far away from God, really since World War II, that like faith has really taken a steep decline. And now we're starting to see it on the uptick. So God is moving. God is moving because evil is so prevalent. We have allowed it to just creep into every facet of society. Not taking care of people who need help is evil. If you
Well,
can do it.
it's now entertainment.
Yes, it is. That's a good point.
It's become entertainment. It's people are entertained watching other people's strife and roasting other people and all this stuff. It's become entertainment. So the second that you turn it into entertainment, just like with the gladiators,
Mhm.
that they did all this to distract people. So all this evil, they repackage it as entertainment, and we lap it up. And
Yeah.
the more of this salacious entertainment evil that you put, the more money you're going to make on these platforms. So you're incentivized to BS and lie and put out all this, quite frankly, evil into the ether. I
Yeah.
mean, we pay people to do this.
We do. We pay people a lot of money. Hollywood makes a lot of money promoting evil.
Yes. So, I mean,
Well,
I'm
this is
trying to make a movie right now about from a book that I wrote. It is difficult to get people to play ball with you, and you're conservative.
yeah.
The type of people that are wanting to play these roles are more conservative because, Hollywood isn't gonna like somebody like me, making a movie like this because it'll be met like The Sound of Freedom was, because it's gonna
Yeah.
tell too much ugly truth that people don't want you to know. But I'm gonna make it anyway, and I'm gonna get the word out.
Well, let's talk off camera about that because I'm involved in a couple of projects to bring more Christian content and got very good contacts with groups who've purchased a lot of the original Christian content providers that are all in the same, all in alignment. That you have choices in life. What free will really is. Free will is, we're human beings. We're subjugated. We're subjugatable. We
Yeah.
either get subjugated by the light or we get subjugated by the darkness with every decision we make. And we make horrible decisions, primarily, like generally speaking. And we have, first of all, I don't believe in the term mental illness. I believe that there's possession taking place. We have so many horrifically mentally ill people that it's almost impossible. Until the 30s, that was always called they're possessed. You weren't
Yes.
crazy, you were possessed.
Yeah.
And the only way to get that out there is the spirit of Jesus, which is proven fact. I've been in deliverance meetings. I've seen all these kinds of crazy things in the world, but I can tell you there's a very big movement in the anti-Hollywood content place that is
I,
really focused on this. What's that?
I said I gotta find those people. So maybe you'll help me.
Yeah, no, let's connect off camera. I'd love to do that. So kind of summarize this thing up. I'm going to summarize. I'm going to let you close this out. We're going to say goodbye. Unfortunately, I could talk to you forever. I have a meeting coming up. But the purpose of life is to be a light, is to be a beacon of light on other people. We can't stress this enough. There's selfishness is just a commonplace anymore. People who are selfless actually get a spotlight for a brief period of time until they shine their light too brightly, and then they get completely bashed in the media. This is a standard practice of Marxism, by the way, which is demonically led. Marxism is led by the Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, who dedicated the book to Lucifer. So this is not like a kooky two Christian people talking about. This is how the world really works, and they've convinced you that it doesn't.
Yes.
And in this life, we have a chance to be a light for our families, which are the most important thing. It's the basic unit of God. And then we have a chance to be a light in our community. So people like Kate who are being a light in their community, and you've taken plenty of backlash. I've done some research before we talked. You you have you have been drugged through the ringer. This
Yeah.
is a byproduct. This is from the Beatitudes, right? Like, if you're persecuted, you will be blessed. It is a blessing to be persecuted. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the stuff you do. I'd love to connect after this and see if we can help each other. But close us out here today. Give us a tidbit, a sound bite here, if you will, on things we can all do to make this country better, which you kind of did. But I'm going to wrap it up with that.
No, and I just think, kind of like a little prayer that I would say for everybody watching. I would pray that God gives you all of that Shekinah glory, fills you so full of it that it radiates out of you, and people understand, like, wow, they're really witnessing, somebody that's on fire for the Lord. And the next time you say, "I'll pray for you," right when you get done praying, ask that person what they need, because the Lord put you there for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. There is a design on our life. There's when God's hand is on you. Some days you're going to have a dark day. I've had plenty of dark days this year, probably the darkest of my whole life. And to stand in the face of that adversity, knowing that God is standing right here with his angel army ready to go to war for me, I would pray that over your life, that you would understand the power of God and that it would radically revolutionize your lens that you see the world through. Because if you can see the world for what it is and what your actual purpose is in this world, you'll have a life full of love, light, power, and legacy.
I love it. Great way to close it out. Kate Monroe, CEO of VetCom, former military, Marine Corps, doing great things in this world. Thank you so much for joining us here today. So God bless you. God bless this country. And we'll see you next time here on the Rice Report. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you.